14, 15.
Rick, I saw this guy on TikTok with like a really cool BMW, and he said his payment was only like 500 bucks a month. So like that means I could totally afford one when I turn 16, right?
Oh, Jesus Christ, Morty. Another victim of financial illiteracy asking me to explain basic economics. Sure, let me drop everything I'm doing. Oh wait, I was just preventing a reality collapse in Dimension C-137 to explain why you're exactly the type of moron car dealerships are salivating over. Sit down, Morty. We're doing this.
I I just thought,
You didn't think, Morty. That's the problem. You saw a shiny object and your primitive lizard brain went, ooh, status symbol. Look, the car payment scam is one of humanity's most successful cons, right up there with wedding rings and college degrees. People are out here signing up for $2,000 monthly payments in 2026 like they're collecting Pokemon cards. It's beautiful, really. A perfect storm of stupidity, societal pressure, and predatory lending practices.
wait, $2,000? That's like more than my mom probably makes in a week.
Exactly, Morty. And that's why we're having this conversation before you inevitably ruin your life with a Dodge Charger at 24% interest. Let me break down the actual math that these smooth-brained car salespeople don't want you to know about. First rule, the 35% rule. And before you ask, no, it's not about how much of your brain you're using. That would put you at like 8% on a good day. The 35% rule says the maximum you should spend on a car is 35% of your gross annual income. Gross means before taxes, Morty. Try to keep up. So if some poor bastard makes $40,000 a year, their car shouldn't cost more than $14,000. At $80,000 annually, that's $28,000 for a car. And if you're pulling in 150 grand, congratulations, you can afford a $52,500 car without being a complete financial disaster. But here's the thing, Morty. That 35% rule, it's for enthusiasts. Car people. The weirdos who name their vehicles and talk about them like they're family members. For normal humans who just need to get from point A to point B without dying or walking, I recommend the 25% rule. Maybe even 20% if you have even a shred of financial self-control.
So at 25%, what would I be looking at?
Well, Morty, considering you make approximately nothing, you'd be looking at a very nice bicycle. But let's pretend you grow up and get a real job. $40,000 a year? $10,000 car maximum. $80,000? $20,000 vehicle? $150? $37,500. See how much more sane that is? You're still getting a decent car, just not the overpriced German engineering nightmare that'll bankrupt you. The real problem, Morty, is that people focus on monthly payments instead of the actual price. And that's how the dealerships absolutely destroy them. They'll take a $50,000 car and stretch the loan to 72 months, maybe 84, and suddenly your monthly payment looks affordable. Meanwhile, you're gonna be making payments when the car has 300,000 miles and sounds like a dying robot with emphysema.
Wait, how long should a car loan be then?
4 years, Morty. Maximum. That's the second part of the 2410 rule. 20% down, 4-year maximum term. You know why? Because the average car loan in America right now is 72 months. 6 years. People are financing cars longer than most marriages last. And every month you stretch that loan, you're throwing money into the interest void. Let me give you a concrete example that might penetrate your thick skull. $30,000 car, 4-year loan at 6% interest in 2026. You'll pay about $3,800 in total interest. Same car, 6-year loan, you'll pay over $5,700 in interest. That's almost $2,000 you just set on fire for the privilege of smaller monthly payments. $2,000, Morty! That's like 40 trips to Blips and Chits.
Holy crap, that's a lot of money just wasted on interest.
Now you're getting it! The longer the loan term, the more these financial vampires suck out of you. And the worst part? People justify it by saying, oh, I can afford the monthly payment. Yeah, you can afford it, Morty, but at what cost? You're paying thousands extra just to drive around in a depreciating asset that'll be worth half what you paid by the time you finally own it. This brings us to the 10 and 2410. Your total monthly car costs, payment, insurance, maintenance should be under 10% of your gross monthly income. Not 15, not 20, 10. This is where people really screw up, Morty, because they forget about insurance and maintenance.
So like, if I made 40,000 a year, what would that be monthly?
Simple division, Morty. 40,000 divided by 12 months is about $3,300 monthly gross income. 10% of that is $333 for everything car-related except gas. Insurance, loan payment, maintenance, all of it. At 80,000 annually, $666 per month. 150,000, $1,250 monthly. Here's a shortcut for your limited processing power. Take your annual salary and divide by 120. That's your max monthly car payment budget, including everything. 40,000 divided by 120 equals 333. See? Even you can handle that math.
But Rick, that seems really restrictive. How am I supposed to get a cool car with those limits?
You're not, Morty. That's the entire point. The average new car price in 2026 is pushing $60,000. 60,000! Using even the aggressive 35% rule, you need to make over $170,000 a year to afford that. The median household income is around 75 to 80,000. You see the disconnect? Most people literally cannot afford the cars they're driving. They're living in a fantasy world subsidized by 72-month loans and delusion.
So should I just never buy a car then?
No, Morty, you need a car. You live in America, a land of the inadequate public transportation. But you need to be smart about it. Which brings me to the eternal question, should you pay cash or finance? And this is where it gets interesting, even for someone with your limited cognitive abilities. If you pay cash, you have no car payment. Sounds great, right? Peace of mind, no debt. Very zen. But there's a massive opportunity cost you're ignoring. Let's say you have $25,000 in cash for a car. Pay it all up front, and that money's gone. Poof. Locked into a depreciating asset.
But I own the car completely, right?
Sure, Morty. You own a depreciating asset. Congratulations. Alternative scenario, put 20% down. That's $5,000. Finance the $20,000 at, say, 6% interest. Now you still have $20,000 in cash. Stick that in an S&P 500 index fund averaging about 10% annually, and in 5 years you've got roughly $32,000. In 30 years, over $350,000. Meanwhile, you're paying 6% on the car loan, but earning 10% on your investments. You're making money on the spread, Morty. It's basic arbitrage. The kind of thing that separates people who build wealth from people who just accumulate stuff.
Wait, so I should always finance?
In theory, yes, if you actually have the discipline to invest the difference. In practice, most people don't. They'll finance the car and then blow the cash on takeout and streaming services they never use. If you're not going to invest the money, just pay cash and avoid the interest. At least you won't be paying 6% to the bank for nothing. But here's 3 actual tips that might save your financial future. 1, shop your insurance like your life depends on it, because financially it kind of does. These companies compete harder than interdimensional Jerry's at a job fair. Triple it quotes you $300 a month. Call Geico, State Farm, Progressive. Tell them the quote. Watch them fight to undercut each other. People save $200 to $300 monthly just by making a few phone calls. It's literally free money, Morty.
That actually seems pretty easy.
That's because it is, Morty. But people don't do it because they're lazy. Tip 2, buy a used car that's 3 to 5 years old. A 3-year-old car has already eaten most of its depreciation, but it's still basically new. You're letting some other moron take the 30% value hit while you cruise in at a discount. It's financial parasitism at its finest. Tip 3, and this is crucial, calculate the true cost of ownership before you buy. There's this thing called the true cost to own calculator on Edmunds. Use it. The 2023 BMW X5 might cost less upfront than a 2023 Toyota 4Runner, but over 5 years the BMW will cost you $25,000 to $30,000 more in maintenance, repairs, and insurance. $30,000, Morty! That's almost a year of college or a down payment on a house in some markets, or enough to fund a small interdimensional smuggling operation.
Wow, German cars are really that expensive to maintain?
German engineering is incredible, Morty. It's also incredibly expensive when something breaks. And things will break. Cars are complex machines with thousands of parts all conspiring to fail at the worst possible moment. The question isn't if something breaks, it's when and how much it costs to fix. A Toyota? Maybe a few $100? A BMW? Better have a few thousand lying around. Here's the reality check, Morty. The car industry has conditioned people to think in monthly payments instead of total cost. They've normalized 6- and 7-year loans. They've convinced everyone that you deserve a luxury vehicle even if you can't afford it. And it's working brilliantly.
This is making me feel really bad about wanting a nice car.
Good! Feeling bad about stupid financial decisions before you make them is called wisdom, Morty. Look, I'm not saying never buy a nice car. I'm saying understand the actual cost and make an informed decision. If you make $150,000 a year and want to spend $37,000 on a car, go nuts. Just don't finance it for 7 years and pretend you're being responsible. The average car payment in 2026 is pushing $800 to $900 a month. Add insurance and maintenance. You're looking at over $1,000 monthly for many people. That's $12,000 a year minimum going into a depreciating asset. Invest that $12,000 annually in index funds for 30 years at 10% returns. You'd have over $2 million, Morty. $2 million versus a series of cars that are all worth basically nothing.
So cars are just a huge waste of money?
They're a necessary waste of money, Morty. Unless you live in a city with actual functional public transit, which in America means like 3 cities total, you need a car. The trick is minimizing the waste. Buy what you need, not what you want. Finance smart. Keep it under 4 years. Stay under 10% of gross income for total costs. And for the love of science, don't fall for the monthly payment trap. You know what people do, Morty? They go to a dealership thinking I can afford $400 a month. The salesperson hears this and thinks, great, I can sell them a $40,000 car on an 84-month loan instead of the $25,000 car on a 48-month loan they should buy. Same payment, different total disaster level.
I think I get it now, Rick. Smaller loan, shorter term, less of my income.
Wow, Morty. Basic comprehension. Let me alert the multiverse. But, yes, you've got the idea. And here's the kicker. When you finally pay off that 4-year loan, you know what you do? You keep making the payment to yourself. Invest it. Build wealth. Don't immediately go buy another car because the advertising industrial complex convinced you that you deserve an upgrade. A paid-off car is freedom, Morty. No monthly obligation, no interest payments, just transportation and the ability to allocate your money toward things that actually appreciate or improve your life. But most people can handle that. The second they pay off one car, they're already at the dealership signing up for the next payment treadmill.
This is actually really helpful, Rick. I had no idea cars were such a financial trap.
That's because the system is designed to keep you ignorant, Morty. Financial literacy isn't taught in schools because broke people are easier to control and extract value from. They want you focused on whether you can afford the monthly payment, not whether you should be spending that money at all. Now get out of my garage. I've got 17 dimensions to save before lunch, and this little economics lesson has already eaten into my productivity. And Morty, when you do eventually buy a car, remember these rules. 25% of income, 20% down, 4 years max, 10% of monthly gross for all costs. Don't be another statistic in the car payment disaster epidemic.
Thanks, Rick. I really...
Out! Now! Before I change the locks on the garage and you have to Uber everywhere, which would ironically be more financially responsible than most car purchases. Go!